We are exploring the cutting edge of healthcare and wellness today. We're talking about the future of medicine, a future where true health extends beyond diet and exercise. Our guest, Hally Brooke, is a functional nutrition coach, and she will shed light on the profound impact of emotional factors on an individual's well being and the emerging systemic approach to healthcare. We are making the connection between the future of medicine and opportunities for provider owners who are dedicated to helping their patients achieve true wellness. Healthcare providers often grapple with the complexities of guiding their patients towards lasting health. Hally will share insights that not only transform patient outcomes, but also offer a sustainable income stream independent of traditional healthcare models. Join us as we explore how the integration of lifestyle-focused care and health coaching can not only elevate patient well-being, but also provide a new avenue for practice growth and professional fulfillment. Get ready to discover a paradigm that empowers both patients and practitioners. Welcome to Thriving Practice, the show where we discuss all things business for practice owners, and we show you how to grow your practice without working more or burning out. I'm your host, Tracy Trapesky. I'm a business owner, consultant, executive coach, mom and bonus mom, and an avid trial by error gardener. I am on a mission to help private practice leaders take back their time while becoming exquisitely fulfilled, profitable business owners. I really dislike that so many practice owners are overworked and overwhelmed and either give up on practice ownership or burn out and leave medicine altogether. My team and I are here to change that by showing you how you can slow down to speed up, grow your practice while taking back your time, and achieve an increased sense of satisfaction both at work and outside of work. Because what is the point of any of this if you're not enjoying it? In our conversation, Hally and I uncover how acknowledging emotional factors is not just complementary to traditional healthcare, but integral to it. It's about recognizing that true health extends far beyond the realms of diet and exercise. It's about understanding the whole person. Drawing from the experiences of healthcare practitioners, Hally sheds light on how emotional attachments can manifest as illnesses, creating an urgent need for a shift towards more insightful questions to aid the healing process. We also discuss the vital role of collaboration among healthcare professionals. By expanding your knowledge and establishing robust referral networks, you can ensure your patients receive the comprehensive care they deserve. And here's where it starts to get exciting. We explore how integrating health coaching into healthcare settings can transform patient outcomes. Whether it's through direct client functional health coaching or through collaborative efforts with practitioners, the impact can be profound. Because it's becoming abundantly clear that the future is where lifestyle is the medicine of choice and where providers are empowered to ask different questions, to uncover deeper truths, and to create personalized plans for healing and growth. So join Hally and me as we navigate this journey towards a more holistic model of patient care where nourished living isn't just a concept, but a practice that transforms lives, enhances outcomes, and offers providers the freedom to truly make a difference. Let's dive in. Hally, thank you so much for coming on the show. It's so good to have you here.
It's so wonderful to be here. Thank you for having me.
I'm so excited for this conversation. One, because I think that sometimes we miss the mark with nutrition, particularly in the US, where we have the standard American diet, the SAD. And maybe we don't always make the connection between some of the conditions that we suffer from and as a population, but also for our medical providers and practitioners to be able to provide the right kind of support to their patients. I think that what we're about to talk about is just going to be so supportive of our providers who are listening. So I'm thrilled to have you on the show.
Good. Yay. Yeah. I'm excited too.
Good. So let's dive in. First, tell us where you're located in the world, and then tell us about your company, and we'll go from there.
Yeah. So I am in Colorado Springs, Colorado. I'm the owner of Live Nourished Coaching. So we have two sides of our business. One side, we provide functional medicine health coaching directly to clients. So we have most of our people are women dealing with IBS, gas and bloating, chronic fatigue, brain fog kind of stuff. And then the other side of that is we really believe that health coaching works best when it's paired with a practitioner. And we can work in this collaborative care model. So we provide fractional health coaches to providers who want to give their clients, their patients more support, but don't necessarily want that extra support to take extra time off their plate. So that's what we do.
That makes a lot of sense. And I love that from a business perspective, we'll just dive straight into the money piece since we sometimes shy away from money. It's like an optional extra stream of income, but it also, it doesn't add to something that we're really intent upon in our world is not creating more work for our providers necessarily, but creating more opportunities. And I love that you can do both, that you can work directly with a client, but you can also support the providers in their practices.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And that's partly of what we see health coaching is when we're partnering with a provider is ideally health coaching should do two things. One, it should increase your patient outcomes because your patient should do better if someone is walking them through lifestyle changes. And two, it should increase the profitability of your practice. So increasing profitability of your practice can look like a couple different things. It can look like just increasing your revenue. It can look like decreasing the time that you spend per patient. So your hourly, so to speak, goes up.
Mhm.
Increasing profitability is increasing that profit margin while also providing even better, higher quality services.
I love that. And I would imagine, better patient outcomes is probably more satisfying as a provider.
Yeah.
We've had a handful of clients who have gone into their private practices, leaving like hospital groups or whatever, saying like, I got sick and tired of seeing our patients getting more sick and more tired. And so I just felt like I needed to do things differently. And some of them then left allopathic care and went into something more in the complementary realm, or they just started taking a more holistic, patient focused approach to help their patients dig for, root cause and things like that.
Yep.
So, and I would imagine when you work with the provider, you might do this with your private clients too, but just since we're doing this for providers, um, you recommend blood work, you collaborate with them on like the blood work to look and see what's going on with them and with a patient who might be coming with some kind of complaint and go
Yeah.
from there. Yeah.
That's a great question. So I'm going to answer that by talking about coach scope of practice, because I think that's
Okay.
actually a really important thing for providers to understand. So we do not, as health coaches, we are not a licensed medical provider. So we are not licensed to pull blood work. We are not licensed to prescribe. We are not licensed to diagnose. That's why the collaborative care model works so well. What we are experts in is we are experts in lifestyle. We are experts in behavior change. Which is a whole science, right? Telling someone to lose weight is a very different thing than them actually going and losing weight.
Mhm.
Telling someone like, hey, you've got an autoimmune disease and you need to stop eating dairy is a very different thing than them actually not eating dairy on a Tuesday. We
Right.
are experts in that. We are experts in um, the way that I like to describe the relationship is the doctor is the detective or the provider is the detective. You're going to do the detective work to figure out what's going on and then create the plan alongside us. And then we are going to take that patient's hand and we are going to walk them through that plan. Um, with our scope of practice, so the coaches that I hire are all coming out of FMCA, so Functional Medicine Coaching Academy, or IIN, Institute for Integrative Nutrition. And in those two programs, we are taught about labs, we are taught about biochemistry. We go through the same course that a provider would go through. So can we collaborate with the provider to help them see a bigger picture and maybe think differently about labs and, talk about like, hey, maybe you should run T4 for your thyroid instead of just T3 or TSH. We can absolutely do that. And we do that when we're working in a really solid collaborative care model, but we are not going to run those labs because at the end of the day, it's the practitioner's license that we're working on.
Gotcha. Well,
Yeah.
I think that makes a lot of sense. Like I know a lot of women maybe of a certain age, start having a bunch of issues. Like you listed some of them, brain fog, some of the fatigue, maybe random seeming joint issues. We now know because there's, I think, a big push in peri and menopausal care that maybe falls under that purview. But you'll hear like, oh yeah, well, I went and they said my thyroid's fine. And then I went to an integrative provider and they did more blood work and they're like, yeah, no, your thyroid's
Yeah,
actually not fine. And here's what you need. So I think sometimes that, the standard of care in allopathic medicine is baseline, right?
it's very
It's,
baseline.
yeah. And
Yeah.
so I love to hear that you collaborate with the providers in, perhaps, maybe take a look at this, add this to the labs that are going to be drawn. Do you work with any particular, like are particular types of providers drawn to working with you, or does it run the gamut?
It really runs the gamut. We love working with functional medicine providers or integrative medicine providers the most because we have the same philosophy, right? Like the root cause of what you're dealing with is actually stress. So you don't
Yeah.
necessarily need a pill, you need to learn how to meditate. Um, we love that because we're speaking the same language, but we do have a handful of allopathic providers or naturopathic providers who maybe function a little bit more allopathically, like it's still a pill for your ill, it's just a supplement instead of, whatever. And it's really fun to work with those providers as well because we can come in and we can support that provider to see a different perspective,
Mhm.
to see like, hey, actually, you know what? Your person's autonomic nervous system is like revved through the roof, and you can give them all the ashwagandha in the world, but if they don't learn how to like breathe, if they don't learn how to manage this relationship in their life that is causing them enormous amounts of stress, if they don't learn how to leave their job at work and come home and rest, if they don't learn how to walk, there's nothing you can do. And so that's really fun for
Mm.
us too, because um, we just get to provide different perspectives. So we work best with functional medicine and integrative providers because we can really dive into the lifestyle piece and let the functional medicine integrative provider do the functional medicine. But we work with allopathic providers, and that's a really fun partnership too.
I bet because it's, there's only so much that they can do, right? And
Hmm.
then they're bound by all the things that we get frustrated with, like, how long they can spend with a patient and all of those things. And like one of the things that we hear a lot, like my clients will share with me, and I personally as a patient have experienced is like, great, thanks for the recommendations. Now, how do I do it?
Yeah.
And it sounds like this is the piece that you bring in. We're like, okay, so they've told you, like earlier before we started recording, we were talking about somebody in my family needs to follow the autoimmune protocol diet,
Yep.
which when you first look at the list of things that you can't have during like the initial detox phase, it's like, well, what the heck can I eat?
Yeah.
And it can be overwhelming. And so then, the actual application and compliance might be low.
Yeah. Yeah. What can I eat? What
Yeah.
restaurants can I go to?
Hmm.
Um, like maybe I'm not even really a cook yet. Like I'm not good at cooking in my own kitchen, but oh my gosh, now I'm so limited. I can't just go out to eat. So how do I learn how to cook? How do I learn how to meal prep? How do I learn how to read ingredient labels in the grocery store? That's a huge thing, especially with autoimmune. Pasta sauce has sugar in it and mustard has sugar in it. Neither of those things need sugar in them. But most of them do because they want to make it addictive so that you keep buying that brand. So
Oh, wow.
helping someone learn like, hey, here's 7 different pasta sauces and we're going to buy these two because these two are the ones that don't have sugar, that have organic tomatoes, blah, blah, blah. Um, yeah, that's what we do. I have an image on one of our brochures where the doctor is holding like the detective lens with a microscope trying to figure out, okay, like what are we doing? And then the health coach is the one like skipping down the street with the patient, like, okay, now we're gonna go do it. that's
Let me come to
that's
the
exactly
grocery
what we
store with you in your
Yep.
mind. Yeah.
That's exactly what we do. And a
Yeah.
lot of times, the way our business works with our functional and our integrative providers, those are the providers where we use more of our agency model. So we plug a health coach in on the back end, and it's a lot more like that health coach works for that practice. And with our
Mhm.
allopathic providers, it's often a lot more referral based. So we get a lot of referrals from allopathic providers saying, hey, this person has, type 2 diabetes or is pre-diabetic or is super overweight or has super major GI issues that we can't figure out, they'll refer to us, even if it's not kind of that agency model, collaborative care model, and say, like, this person needs lifestyle, but I have 7 minutes with my patient and we don't have time to talk about like gluten and dairy. So
Uh-huh. Right.
then we take it
And
from there.
where all that stuff is hiding.
And where
if
all
you're
that
not a
stuff is
cook,
hiding.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah.
Interesting. Really interesting, because I think it can be like, from the perspective of the patient, can be incredibly overwhelming to implement lifestyle changes, particularly if they don't feel well,
Yeah.
right? Because
Yep.
one of the mantras that we use, like internally in our own home, is when we feel better, we make better choices. So like if you've been eating, like I have teenagers, so if you've been eating junk food for a week and you're feeling sluggish and your stomach hurts, the best thing you could do is like, here, have some bone broth, eat a piece of chicken, how about some broccoli, let's go, right? And
Yep.
like, your brain will start to clear out. You'll start to feel a little bit better. You don't have to, as a 17-year-old, you don't have to do a big cleanse, but you might want to eat mom's cooking
Mm-hmm. Yep.
for like at
Exactly.
least 3 days. Just go 3 days and see how you feel. Super healer. Let's go. Right. So that's one piece that I think is really supportive, like with the health coaching. On the other side, it's like the overwhelm that providers face. Like you mentioned, I've got 7 minutes with a patient. Like I can hand them a form that gives them a list of, recommended lifestyle changes. But like here, pre-diabetic person, lose 20 pounds and cut back on sugar. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
How?
Yeah. How am I going to do that? Also,
Mhm.
I have a husband who isn't interested in eating this way. And I have 3 kids at home who aren't interested in eating this way. And
Yeah.
I have a full-time job and like a 5-year-old. So what am I supposed to do? Yeah. Like I don't have time to spend in the kitchen doing all these
Yeah.
things. So how do I do that? And
Yeah.
that I think is really where, in a lot of ways, lifestyle medicine or health coaching is the future of medicine, because our
Mhm.
diseases nowadays are not solved with antibiotics, right? Like
Yeah.
our diseases are no longer acute, short-term colds and things. These are long-term
Yeah.
chronic diseases that are caused by lifestyle, and there is not a pill to fix lifestyle. The only way to fix lifestyle is to fix lifestyle, and fixing lifestyle is hard.
Yeah.
Because fixing lifestyle, usually by the time someone ends up in a doctor's office for some of these chronic things, they're usually, 20s, 30s, 40s, which means they have 3, 4, 5 decades of habits that have gotten them to this place in the first place. And we don't just erase habits overnight. There is no doctors, providers tend to be really directive. Like, well, you need to do this. Okay,
Mhm.
cool. Well, I could have figured out that I needed to do that by Googling it. Like, I actually already knew that I needed to do that before I walked into your office. Because the shoulds are out there. Everyone knows that we should
Yeah.
eat well, that we should exercise, that we should drink water. And if the shoulds were good enough, people would do something. But the shoulds
Totally.
aren't good enough. And the directive from a doctor isn't doing anything except for those like super high achievers that are 2% of your patients. And so what are you going to do with the other, 98% of your patients who are not high achievers and go-getters and who care about their health, but have 4 decades of habits and patterns and all of the support structures in their life support their current lifestyle, not a new lifestyle. Like those, you need help. You can't do that
Oh
on
my
your own.
gosh. Yeah. Well, I was thinking, even like, say, someone who is otherwise healthy, they work out, they eat pretty well, or they think they do, and they, meditate and do yoga and journal, and they're just, they have crystals and everything, right? And they show up to their doctor and they're like, I have chronic migraines, I have sinus infections, I have brain fog, I have frozen shoulder, whatever, right? All the things.
Mhm.
And they can't find it, right? Like an allopathic doctor doesn't really go on that journey. They can only go so far. And not everybody has the resources to go pay out of pocket to go have $2,000 worth of blood work done to look at everything,
Right.
you know? So I'm curious about like those people too, like the people who are otherwise healthy. And then all of a sudden they're like, boom, I can't think, or I have, rheumatoid arthritis that came out of nowhere seemingly,
Yeah.
you know?
Yep. So I love that question. That was me. That's how I ended up here. I grew up in Boulder, Colorado. My parents are total hippies. We've eaten organic our whole life, like always active, always an athlete. As far as setup goes for lifestyle habits, like, I ate out more during the pandemic than I have ever eaten out in my life, just because my roommates and I stacked hands on keeping restaurants open. We're like, we are going to keep our local restaurants open. Like, I don't eat out. Like,
Single-handedly.
yeah, and we did. None of them closed. We
Well
rotated
done.
between like vegan tacos, Chinese food, Indian food, and breakfast burritos, because those are the things that are in walking distance from our house. Anyway, long story short, that was me. So I was super healthy, like checked all the boxes. And I had horrible IBS that nobody could figure out. My arms went numb kind of periodically. I had dark circles under my eyes. My skin was gray. I had rashes all over. Like I was not okay. But everyone told me I was okay. They're like, oh, we don't really know. I ended up seeing 7 different doctors kind of in the allopathic model, but some of them were also holistic. And the last doctor that I went to see said, well, chicken and lettuce is what your body can digest right now. So just eat that. And I was like, for the rest of my life? And basically she said, yeah, I think that's what you need to do. And I left that doctor's office and I just said, that cannot be the answer. There has to be something else. I don't know what it is, but
I'm going to find it.
That like I'm 24 and I have shingles. Like this cannot be the rest of my life.
Oh my God. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I was that person. Like I was healthy, I was the teacher, I was active, all the things. And so what I learned from that process, that was the journey that made me stumble into functional medicine, because I just started looking for answers. Like, okay, if nobody has an answer, what is the answer? And I started learning about gut health and intestinal permeability, which a lot of people who eat really healthy still have leaky gut. And if you have leaky gut, that's going to trigger an autoimmune disease. And so reverse engineering that and going, okay, so if I have leaky gut, how do I heal my gut? If a cut on my arm heals, then surely the epithelial lining of my GI tract can heal. So how do I do that? And I can't just put my GI tract in a cast. That's not going to work. So how do I, create a barrier, a mucosal lining barrier? All of these things just opened up the world when I started asking questions around, I started asking the right questions. Like, where is this coming from? Why is this happening? How can we resolve this? And I found it. And that's what got me into functional medicine. And so there are a lot of people out there who are doing all the right things, who are checking all the boxes, and who are living a really healthy lifestyle and still are really sick because there's some underlying condition. And I still to this day don't know what caused mine. Like I eat healthy, I have all the things. Probably stress, very likely trauma. Like those are part of my story and part of my life. Probably the fact that even though I ate clean and I ate organic, I'm still, our gut epithelial lining is 1 cell thick. So it's not hard to understand how we could get holes in that. And I'd never intentionally healed that. And so going through that process, and now I can eat whatever I want, and I'm no longer on the path to an autoimmune disease, and gluten and dairy doesn't bother me, and my arms don't go numb, and my skin is pink and not gray, and life is good. But so to speak to those people who are doing all the things, start asking different questions. Instead of asking what's wrong, ask where is this coming from? What is the root cause? What is the underlying system that can solve this? And then if that system is hurt or damaged, how can I heal that? And a lot of times it's a multifaceted approach, right? It's counseling, it's mental health support, it's supplements to heal your gut. It's an elimination food plan that's not going to last forever, but you do need to do it. It is, it's changing your life, not just changing one piece. That was a really rambling answer.
I love it.
Okay.
No, a few things came to mind. I still haven't read this book. I need to get it, but The Body Keeps the Score really came to mind. Right? That
Excellent
you
book.
mentioned trauma. It's something we don't think about, right? We're like, oh, just eat less. You'll be fine. If you close your mouth,
Yeah.
stop putting food in it, you'll be fine. You'll lose weight. It'll be fantastic. But, if we have this amount of stress and we have elevated cortisol levels and we have all these things going on, plus we haven't done whatever work needs to be done to release whatever our experiences. And by the way, you don't have to have had major traumas like PTSD type trauma to have still endured a trauma. So it's something that I am hearing more and more that patients are starting to request support with it, right? I think the pandemic really started to shed light on that. Like even one of our clients who is super rural, like tiny little town, they said, even our patients who come in who generally don't have access to great high quality food and maybe have never done that are coming in saying, not how can you fix what's wrong with me, but how can I get healthier?
Yes.
And so they're starting to share literature about like, well, here's like 1 or 2 things that you could do to improve your nutrition. Start with that, right?
Yep.
Start with the small things.
Yep.
I think I forgot what the second point was I was going to make, but it'll probably come back to me. But I think that that's a really important one, is like to recognize that it's not just eating, right?
Right.
It's not just the food that we eat or the calories in and calories out. Like I think it used to be that simple, maybe when we were all 20.
Yeah. Yep.
I may be a little bit older than 20 now, and I know for a fact that it's not just the calories, and it's, that it's so much more than that. And there's so
Hmm.
much more work that we need to do. And I think what I want our listeners to take away from this, lots of things, but especially this part of the conversation, is like, it's okay if you don't know the answers, but maybe
Hmm.
you can empower your patients to start asking different questions.
Yep.
That's a
Yep.
big takeaway for me.
That's a huge takeaway. Start asking, empower your patients to start asking different questions and start asking different questions yourself.
Hmm.
Yeah. And focusing on, the allopathic model is, here's like, this is the illness, here's the solution. Starting to think about things from more of a systems model. You mentioned frozen shoulder. There's another great book. The Body Keeps the Score is amazing. Highly recommend. Another great book is Emotional Barriers to Healing. And it's a
Mm.
practitioner who did, you know, 3 decades of studies on people who had lung cancer and like this kind of breast cancer, and frozen shoulder is in there and all of these things, and found patterns between various illnesses and various emotional attachments. And frozen shoulder is one of them. Like a lot of times people with frozen shoulders have a tendency to take on more responsibility than that's theirs. Sounds super weird and woo woo and like crystally, but man, you send someone to count. This has happened with a client. We had a client she wasn't frozen shoulder, but had a ton of shoulder pain, and we'd sent her to physical therapy and nothing was happening. Gave her this book, sent her to counseling, and said, I want you to talk about where you're taking on too much responsibility in her life. 4 counseling sessions focusing on that. Her shoulder pain went away. It's like,
Boom.
sweet, awesome. And
That
that's,
is wild.
it's wild. And
Yeah.
that's the fun part of what we get to do as a health coach is I don't have the answer to that. I'm not a therapist. I'm not going to be able to walk you through that, but I can ask the question, have we thought about the fact that your shoulder pain might not be rotator cuff and might be something else? Have you asked this question? Go ask this question, see what happens. And she
Mhm.
asked that question and like problem solved. Like, great, awesome.
Amazing.
Like,
That's
what's the next thing on the
amazing.
list? Yeah. And I think,
Yeah.
every provider I know, whether they're allopathic or naturopathic or functional medicine or whatever, practitioners get into this work because they care about people. And they want to make a difference and they want to see people heal and get better. And the bummer is that our allopathic model is not designed to help people get better. And so we spend a lot of time and a lot of school and a lot of effort learning how to band-aid problems instead of how to heal. And so exactly what you just said, the takeaway is to step back, and you don't have to know all the answers, but you have to learn how to ask better questions.
Hmm. And I think, excuse me, for our allopathic listeners, this is where you get to embrace something a little bit more robust than what you do. Everybody needs to stay in their lane. I'm not suggesting, go out and educate yourself and then think that you're an expert in this. Like it's probably
No.
a bit much. But like one of my kids had major health issues when they were little and we couldn't figure out what was wrong. And the pediatrician we were going to like blamed it on my divorce. And I was like, I feel like that's been already 2 years and this kiddo's doing fine. And if therapy could solve diarrhea, I'd be on it. Right. So we went to another pediatrician who said, yeah, no. Okay, here's the thing. That's outside our lane. Let's start with this. And then you can try
Mm,
this and try this by going to different specialists. We'll collaborate.
yep.
And we ended up going to a naturopath who was like, hey, guess what? We're not allowed to diagnose. And we were in DC at the time. We're not allowed to diagnose. But if we were, we would say celiac because all but one box has been checked, even though it didn't
Hmm.
show up in the GI, upper GI scope and all that stuff. Ta-da! 30 days
Yep.
later, my kiddo was great, feeling better, sleeping well, not missing school, starting to heal. We had to do a bunch of things to help her heal, but she started gaining weight and like all this stuff happened. In about 2, 3 months, this child was back to her good old jolly self. And she just
That's,
can't eat gluten.
yep. That's awesome. I think that what you just said is so powerful. We will collaborate, and here's a bunch of different resources.
Yep.
As you know, the temptation to want to be everything for every one of your patients is really strong,
Oh, yeah.
especially as providers. Like, we are smart and we are intelligent and we are hungry for new information and we are going to go learn when we hear something new. But if we are trying to be everything for everyone, we're going to be nothing for no one. And in my opinion, I think it's a really prideful position. So instead of trying to be everything for everyone, start building your network. Start reaching out to other providers who do things differently than you do, learn about what they do, and then build a referral network so that every time you get a patient who has this thing, you know exactly who to send them to and you know, like, and trust them. And when that provider gets someone who has something, they know exactly who to send us to. One of the things that we have at Live Nourish Coaching that is like, one of our golden nuggets is we have our refer out document. We have 60 plus providers on that because we know that as health coaches, we don't have the answer for everything, but I can find you who does have the answer for it. And I know them and I've seen how they work and I've seen the integrity with which they work. And I know that they're excellent. So like our person with a frozen shoulder, as we like sort of started to ask the question of, could this maybe be a relationship issue? I knew exactly the 3 counselors to refer her to so that she could find the one that fit. And she did. So, build your knowledge. Yes. Learn more. Yes. Expand your horizons. Yes. But spend an equal amount of time, if not more, building your referral network so that you have your people who you can go to learn from, but you who can also go to for your clients.
I love that. And I think that's a really great way to like solve for, I feel helpless right now. I want to help you so badly and I don't know what to do because I know that that's really hard. It's hard for all humans. I think it's especially hard for providers and practitioners to like not know.
Yeah.
So, hey, here's some ways to explore this. That was something I so appreciated from the pediatrician that we went to. They were like, this is outside of our realm. It's probably a GI issue, but maybe it's something else. So here's the people to check in with and just give them permission or sign the form that gives us all permission to talk to each other. And I think that that's like in business, that's such a great way. Like this is purely, I'm just putting my operations hat on for a second.
Yeah.
You're going to serve your patients really well. So of course that's great. And happy patients are, returning, referring, and they love on you. But also from a business perspective, like having that bench, we call it in our business, we call it having a bench of experts that we can refer to and support and collaborate with. It will bring more people in.
Yep.
It will
exactly.
increase your bottom line. It might not be a direct line that you can fully trace, but you will start to see your numbers trending the way you want them to. You're not going to lose business by supporting your patients in the best way that you can. And sometimes the best way to support them is by referring them out. If they broke their arm and you're not a bone setter, you're going to send them to the right clinic or to the right surgical center. That's what you do. So why not also include then the functional support or psychiatric care and all that? And yeah, I think that's awesome. And to expand even that list of referrals to include more, holistic support or whatever it might be.
Yep.
Yeah,
Exactly.
I love that.
Yep.
Well, as usual, time flies. I've so enjoyed our conversation. I feel like we could talk for hours and we still wouldn't have finished saying what we want to say, right? All the things and the passion. I love your passion. I love how you have the 2 ways of doing things. I think that's super supportive of like individuals can come to you. So let's say one of our listeners says, okay, both I'm feeling fatigued, burnt out, and all the things, and I'm working on the burnout, but now I need to come back and heal my own body. Also, I want to talk to you about potentially serving our patients. How could they get in touch with you?
Yeah. So either way, our website is the best way. So www.live, L-I-V-E, nourished, Nourished coaching.com. If you want to come to us as a client and say, hey, I'm struggling with these things, let's fix it. There's a box in the upper right-hand corner that says schedule a consult, and we will talk to you. That is not a sales call. That is we are going to get you to the right place, whether that's us or someone else. If you are a provider and you're saying, gosh, I don't really even understand health coaching, or I don't understand how this could help my practice, but I want to support my people this way. Same thing, go to our website, click the contact us button, send me an email, and we'll hop on a call and we'll talk about what the right solution for your practice is, whether that's a health coach or going back to school or building your referral network or whatever it is. So yeah, go to our website, connect with me.
Perfect. We'll make sure that we have both of those like easy to just click in the show notes so they can get to you really quickly. So final question. Do you have parting wisdom to share? And it's like or is there something that I didn't ask you that you really want to tell our listeners?
Ooh, that's a great question. Can I answer? Can I do both?
Yes, you totally can.
Okay, great. So for your listeners who are mostly providers, this is like the parting wisdom. Harvard Health 2 years ago published an article that said health coaching is the future of medicine. Any providers who don't have a health coach by the end of 2024 will be behind the curve. I think that's huge because of everything we just talked about. Medicine is lifestyle. You don't have the time. And even if you do have the time, you spending 2 hours with a patient every single time is not a good use of your time for your business. So figure out how to hire a health coach. Don't just hire any health coach. Make sure they're nationally board certified, make sure they're good, but start making a move this year and next year to getting support from health coaching in your practice. It will change the way you practice. It'll change the way your patients interact with your practice for the better in every way by increasing patient satisfaction and profitability. So there's my little parting summary. I think if I was to leave, one sentence at the end, it's the more you learn, the better you serve. And practitioners know that. So just keep learning, keep asking questions, keep improving the quality of your questions, and keep learning because there's so much out there that will change your patients' lives. So just keep learning.
Sage advice. Hally, thank you so much. So appreciate you coming on. I learned a lot today, so I'm sure that our listeners will too. Thank you.
Thank you so much. It's been an honor. Thanks for having me.
Big thanks to Hally Brooke for sharing such invaluable expertise with us today. Her insights on the opportunities to both serve your patients more fully and add to your bottom line are definitely worth exploring. We've learned that looking at the whole person and understanding that you as the provider may not be equipped to support your patients in implementing lifestyles is not a failure. It's an opportunity. You can bring on expert functional health coaches, ultimately supporting your patients in getting and staying healthy and improving the bottom line. How can it get any better? If you enjoyed this episode, make sure you leave a review so more practice owners like you can learn from myself and our incredible guests. Be sure to subscribe so you can listen for more expert tips and strategies to help you grow your practice without burnout. If you'd like to be part of a growing community of practice for provider owners like you, join us at one of our upcoming virtual meet and greet events. Go to thrivingpracticecommunity.com and click Join the Waiting List to learn more. Thanks for listening, and until next time, take care.